Hello, my beautiful Val. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's a beautiful day outside.
Oh, wow. Here is almost in the evening, so it is beautiful. But before we gonna ask the beautiful viewers out there to have a look and see if there's something in their heart I want to grab onto your words. I just want to play E360 TV's video, and then we are ready to rock and roll. Are you ready, my beautiful one?
I
Yeah.
am.
Here we go.
That was amazing.
And I chose that one for a reason. You are also the first one that I play a video of E360 before the time because I wanted that snow. I know somewhere there's going to be a snow story that you're going to tell us. So, my beautiful Val, I want to say thank you to you being here, but I first want to tell the audience and I want to tell the Diamond Beauties why I love you. So, I will look at them. I will say, my beautiful viewers, my beautiful Diamond Beauties, if you do give us a comment, I'm not going to shout out and say your name and a comment. I will just show you a comment because today is all about Val. Val is going to come and tell her story and all the things that she have accomplished in her life through the work she does for so many years. Val blew me away the first time I met Val. And since then, I am like glued to, I don't know what, paper or something. I don't know what to say. I don't know the wording, but I am like glued to Val because she inspires me every day. She inspires me so much, and I am truly proud of her, everything that she is doing. So I want to say enjoy today's session, and please give us love, give us feedback as well. If you're on the replay, give us love. So, my beautiful Val, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I certainly can. My name is Val Burgess, and I live in Wyoming in the United States. And I had the most amazing opportunity to travel back to Europe with 125 former prisoners of war and 200 members of their family. We went to their prison camp. We followed their forced march. We went to the prison, another prison camp where they were finally liberated. And they gave to me life lessons that I never had at home. I never learned about resilience or being, to love myself. I never learned that at home. And these people through their stories started giving me that. And I have to tell you, I've recorded almost 200 people. What's interesting about that is that I was more interested in the personal story about what it did to them and how they learned to love or forgive or whatever it was from their incredible adversity and how it changed them. And it allowed me, which I'm still working on, to truly look at my own adversity. And I think I'm doing pretty well, but there are some things certainly I need to do. And I'm lucky today in that we will be talking about that.
I'm truly proud that I'm bringing our faces a little bit closer. But you like my new Canva with the full moon?
Beautiful.
I could not get a Canva that says diamond, soul of a diamond. So this is what I got. So my beautiful Val, I made you a special video to say thank you for doing this. Thank you for being my special guest. So are you ready for me to show you?
Yes.
Here we go.
I want to talk to you about war. Not the wars globally, but that war you have inside yourself. I want you to live your best life. Please join Sunit Von Breda, our host, and me, Val Burgess, for Soul of a Diamond on Thursday, November 16th at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You will hear stories of World War II prisoners of war and how they overcame their adversity. The show is called Illuminating Stories of Triumph from the Shadows of Adversity. So please join us.
It's lovely.
I went and searched for, I didn't even know those sounds are on Canva. I didn't even know. But it was so wonderful to be able to do this for you, my beautiful Val. So, my beautiful Val, if I do sit down, please excuse me. I will make sure still I will be okay. Like I said before the show, I was bitten by a spider, and today I had a little bit of a fever, and I feel a little bit. So I try to make myself a bit better. So
You look lovely.
oh, thank you. So Val, I'm just gonna and you can just continue talking and tell the story. Are you ready, my beautiful one?
I am ready.
You are welcome to start.
Okay. When I started down this journey, well, maybe I'll start a little bit earlier. I always felt like there was something I was supposed to do for the world. And I know that sounds grandiose, but it just always kind of nagged at me. And then when I was in my 30s, my late 30s, my uncle was at my grandmother's funeral, and he kept talking about wanting to go back to the prison camp he was interned in during World War II. And I didn't even know he was a prisoner, truthfully, because our families didn't spend much time together. That day, he kept talking and talking and talking about wanting to go back. And finally, I kind of got tired of it. And I said, well, why don't you just go? And he said, I need someone to do the marketing because I want to take a large group back. Now, he knew, I think, that I was a graphic designer and I did marketing. So I said, well, I'll do that for you. And he said, you have a free trip to Europe. Well, no one is ever going to stop me from having or taking a free trip to Europe. And so we sent out 3,000 letters, and these people started contacting us. And every time they told me a story after they asked their questions. And I was just so impressed. And I was like, wow. Well, and then I asked my uncle, has anyone ever recorded them? And he said, I don't think so. And that became my mission. And my life diverted, as well as having my 2 children, my husband, my family, my dogs, cats, llamas, and my business. I was going down a road of World War II that I'd had no idea was going to give me so many gifts. Today, I'd like to talk about the power of adversity. And there's so many stories I could tell you, but I'm going to tell you just snippets of others. And what I'd really like all of you to do is to put your feet in their shoes and really listen to the story and compare your adversity to their adversity. Because we in the United States, I think many of us are a little spoiled, actually maybe a lot spoiled, and we take for granted, and we sometimes think that we deserve everything. And truthfully, this was the greatest generation who gave much for changing the world to make sure that we had a world and had democracy worldwide. And they were young. They had really a lot for their future. They had nothing for their future, really, because there were no jobs because of the Depression. But they gave of themselves in so many ways. So here's a story about a man named Leonard Robinson. He had finished 2 years of college. He was stationed in the Philippines, and he was going to go home. This was December 8th. And he was working guard duty, and he was scheduled to go home in 6 weeks. Unfortunately, on the 8th of December, which is exactly the same day as December 7th in Hawaii, the Japanese attacked Clark Field, and he fought. He saw the worst of things. He ended up on the island, or on the peninsula of Bataan. He became one of the Bataan, the battling bastards of Bataan. No mama, no papa, no Uncle Sam, and nobody gives a damn. They were not refitted with food, weaponry. They were using World War II, and they fought and they fought. Every one of the men on Bataan had at least 3 diseases. beriberi, which was an illness from malnutrition, then dengue, anyway, fever, they had dysentery, and they had malaria. And so then when they had to surrender because they were spent, they had very little food to eat. And when you're in combat, you need to have a lot. And Len was on the battalion death march. He ended up in 2 prison camps. At one of the prison camps, he got diphtheria, and was put into a hospital. It was called the 00 ward because 0 people came out of it. 5 people survived. And none of the other prisoners in the camp wanted to be near them, so they isolated them, and they were able to help each other become healthy. But what's even more interesting is he said because he had this disease, the fleas, the lice, and the bed bugs wanted nothing to do with them. So they really were able to heal, unlike the others could. He was on a hell ship, and that could take a whole hour, so I can't talk about hell ships, and sometime I will, but they are horrific places. And he ends up, and he is in Japan. He's working. He's trying to make the best for the men he is commander of, even though he really was the Japanese were commanding his life. And then he was liberated, and he was put on a train and went to Tokyo, and he did a most interesting thing. The city of Tokyo was flattened. There was nothing left of it. He looked around and he decided he would unconditionally forgive his captors. He told me, I can tell anyone how to forgive. He said, first, you need to put your life, your story in the hands of a higher power, whether it's Jesus, God, Buddha, or just believing in a higher power. You then have to be comfortable with your story, and you have to be able to tell your story. Not all the gory details, but you have to be comfortable with it. So in your heart, you look at your adversity and you realize how it's made you better. You realize all the things that it taught you about your future life. Now, for some of you, that might be really difficult to do because yours was really, really complicated. But if you can find little nuggets here and there in that story, that will help you. So finally, he said, you then have to forgive unconditionally, not for those people that harmed you or that hurt you or that did really bad things to you, but for yourself. Because when you forgive unconditionally, you have power. You have power over them. You have power over yourself. You have almost power over your own world because you have forgiven. So I tell you that, and I'm going to repeat that more succinctly at the end because I want you to have the ability to do that. I did that with my mother and my brother when she died last year because I was unable to talk to them. And I went to her funeral. I was able to embrace my brother, and we talked, we had fun together. It's not like we're best friends, not like we used to be, but certainly we have a different relationship, but it's not one of anger and hurt. And I want that for you. So I really do recommend that. You can journal your journey, all of those things to make your life better for you. We all have personal rubble. Some have better personal rubble, and others have worse. And if there's something that I say to you that is really sort of in a bad place, I hope you will just turn your ears off and don't listen. But the next story I want to tell you is about resilience.
I'm so sorry. Let me just.
I should do that. It's fine. It's perfect. I want you comfortable. I think that's very important.
I feel like I need to sit down.
Please do.
Thank you.
Do.
Sorry for the interruption.
And that's not a problem. And resilience, I think we all have some resilience, and building the maximum that we can so that we can let things kind of go over our shoulders and embrace different things that we normally wouldn't because we are resilient. We know we can't let that in to hurt us. We know that we're taking care of ourselves. We know about ourselves in a way that makes us stronger, able to do things that you're like Superman, you're a genius, you're all of those things. And it really comes with resilience. I'm going to tell you a story about a man named Lowell Slats Slayton. Now, Lowell Slayton, Slats, I call him Slats, he was flying in 1944, and they were on, I think, their 11th or 12th mission, and they got shot down, meaning the flak and the fighters got them. And he and a lot of them were injured, and his pilot knew he couldn't make them bail out because it would only make them worse. And so he landed the plane, the back broke off, and no one was killed that day, but there were certainly injuries, and some of them died of their injuries. Slats was in the hospital for a long time, healing him because his knee had been shot, and by a rocket, it hurt his knee pretty bad. And the German doctor did a really good thing. It never bothered him ever in his whole life, and he lived to be in his 90s. He was able to play golf and all of those things, so he was grateful for that. He was put in a prison camp called Stalag Luft 4, and at Stalag Luft 4, the guards they wanted any reason to beat you. They wanted any reason to treat you badly. You had one meal a day, which was not very good. They had Red Cross parcels. Sometimes they get Red Cross parcels were boxes of food. Two men would have to share it, or more men than that. And they wouldn't eat a whole parcel, but they would take things out of it and eat it. And then well, I'll tell you just one more piece of that. So Len, when he was moved to Stalag Luft 4, they were in trains. They had to spend the night standing up in these trains in the cold. And then they were ran up the hill. They were barbed wire together in couples of two. The young German soldiers were bayoneting them in the back, and the dogs were biting them. So it was a very, very tough time. And they're trying to survive anyway. They hadn't eaten in more than 24 hours. And they got to this camp. In January of 1945, the Russians were coming in from the east, and Hitler didn't want anyone to have our Allied officers or anyone that flew airplanes, because he wanted to take them out so that he still could control and win this war. So he said he wanted to kill them, but then decided, well, he let his generals decide, and they decided to force march. So there were hundreds of thousands of men, Allied POWs, British, Commonwealth countries, Americans, marching to the west, back and forth. Now, Slats Slayton, he was one of 6,000 prisoners, and they started marching, and they marched, and they marched. They left, I think, like the 5th to the 9th of February, and they marched for 82 days, and they walked between 400 and 600 miles. Now, this was the coldest winter on record, and sometimes they would get the Germans bread and marjoram. It only gave them dysentery. Sometimes they got to sleep in barns where they got fleas and lice. He said, the damn little things were all over me. And then they marched on, and they marched on, and they marched on. Now, Slats was really ill. He had dysentery, which is bloody stools, when he defecated. And he knew he had maybe 10 days to live. I told you he'd been in a hospital, and then a guard took him to the prison camp, of the first prison camp, but the second prison camp is Stalag Luft 4. And I want to tell you, Stalag just means POW, prisoner of war camp. Luft means the Luftwaffe, which was the German Air Force. And number 4 was just a number that they used to identify the camp. So Slats is at the end of the line of 6,000 men. There's guards around, and he's there, and he's just miserable. At that point, he had nowhere to, he had, his clothing was soiled because of his illness from malnutrition. And a guard spotted him, and he was the guard that had taken him to the first camp. And he said, have you eaten today? And he said, 9. He said that in German, of course. And he said, stay here. And he went and got a loaf of black bread, and he came back and shoved it in Slats' coat. He was able to eat. And in the next day or the day after that, he and another guy escaped. Now, the Germans were looking for people who had escaped because a lot of them were trying to get away because there were lines of all these people and they couldn't watch all of them. And Slats and a guy, the other man, laid down next to a stump, covered themselves with leaves, and the guards went the other way with the dogs, so they got away. Now, Slats, it's longer than that. He got to eat a meal that night, and then the Russians he met up with said, "Well, the Americans are just outside the forest." So he went looking, and he's standing in the trees, and he can see these Sherman tanks with big white stars on them, and he knew it was the Americans. So he comes out of the forest with his hands up, and he stands there and opens the tank. It was a British person, a British soldier in there, because the British were also using our tanks, the Americans' tanks. And he says, "Hi, mate." He says, "You prisoner of war?" And he says, "Yes." And he throws him food, and Slat sits down and just ate and ate and ate and ate. And he immediately, it all went out. It all went right back out. And they got him to a hospital, and he was in a coma for days and days with a huge temperature. And they thought, the doctor said, "This guy's going to be a vegetable. There's no way he can survive this." And then Slats woke up and he smelled donuts. So he got out of bed and he went in the hall, and he was going to get a donut. And the doctor says, "What are you doing out of bed? How did you get here?" And he said, "I walked. I want a donut and I'm going to get one." So he did. And he lived happily ever after. He had a family, a wife. He lived very well. And so he was so grateful. But it was his enemy that gave him a loaf of bread, that allowed him. And it was, if you want to call it serendipity or God, but something told him where to go, when to escape. And he learned resilience from that. He learned, if I could do that, I can do anything. He became a banker. He lived in a lovely town. He was one of the people that he was one of those people that you respected, and you were so glad to know about him. And he became very comfortable with his story. So that's why I tell you, it's important to know about your story.
I love that. So, Val, if you look it back into your life, how did it help you?
I think I never learned to be comfortable with myself. I never had that confidence that I needed because, well, I was the mother of my family. My mother would come to me for advice, and I was just a kid. I was, and my father, he just was my father, and he had an alcohol problem. And my brothers and I took care of my brothers because I was the oldest. Now, they would probably say, "Oh, you did not," but truthfully, in my heart, I was the caregiver. I was the one that would help them make decisions. And I think sometimes it made me overbearing as I got older, but I'm doing better. I'm not trying to interfere in anyone's life. But they gave me the confidence to do anything I want to. Now, within reason, but it did give me the confidence to. I just finished in 12 days. I wrote a manuscript of, now it's up to 32,600 words. And I was so concerned that I might not be able to do it. But the first day I just sat down and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And it was like by the end of the 2 weeks, I had all this information. It was all written down. It was all there. And they gave me the confidence to even apply to go to this place, and the confidence to just do it. And I just didn't learn that at home. And so I think a lot of times we think we need to go to our family when sometimes it's someone else. It may be someone in a history book. It may be someone who you just happen to meet and kind of fall in love with, and they mentor you. And so I think all of us need to look for those people who really can change our life in many ways. I mean, they knew they could do anything. When they came back from the war, many of them said, "I applied for jobs that I wasn't really qualified for, but I did," because what were they going to say? No. Well, no is a no, but so what? Then you ask someone else. And I think sometimes it's so easy for us to let a no break our spirit. And that means there's something better. I honestly believe that means there's something better for you. Something that you need to, I try to do something every day that makes me learn something. And I think all of us, if you're in a place where you don't know what to do with your life, start writing. If you journal and write and ask questions of yourself, you will get those answers. If you put a piece of paper in your pocket that puts your goals that you want, I mean, and some of them, I mean, you can't say I want to live in the White House. Well, maybe you can. It's because some of us can, but maybe that's too much of a stretch. But stretch yourself every day. Stretch yourself in ways that make you uncomfortable. Learn something. Find resilience. Look at your adversity. Forgive someone. Think about your fear. I use this term. I would like people to step out of the prison camp of their own making, because truly so many of us limit ourselves, put ourselves in a prison camp of our own making because we're just more comfortable with that. I mean,
Yes.
we've grown comfortable with that. And really, why do we do that? Why do we put ourselves in a prison camp of our own making? I mean, did you feel you were ever in a prison camp of your own making? I mean, maybe that's not the way you said it, Sunit, but it takes some work to get yourself out of that mode. But when you do, you go, wow, I can't believe I did that. And I want all of you. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I want all of you to stretch yourself, because even if it's a tiny nugget every day, if it's maybe a piece of your fear, maybe you don't want to talk to that person, or maybe you don't want to forgive, but take the time, 15 minutes, every day to kind of categorize, look at, determine, write down, embrace, do those things that end up after 3 weeks. How much time did you spend? Wow. Oh, and you met people. So connect with people. What people are going to change you? What people just said something to you in the grocery store and you go, "Gal, I really like you." Or you tell someone they look beautiful, or and you make a friend, even if it's only for that moment. You have added something to yourself. You have added something to someone else. Jack Kapmeyer, he was a man who bailed out, and he was captured immediately. And the guards they made him get down in a ditch, and they lined up with their guns to shoot him. He had his hands behind his back, and he was standing there. And this is so funny to me. His thought was, I wanted my father to be proud, so I wasn't going to be scared about my death. Now, his father would never know that, but Jack was not going to grovel and cry and carry on. And he stood there. Now, across the road from him was a farmer with a team of oxen and a little boy, and they were plowing the field. The German farmer saw what those German soldiers were going to do, and he started yelling at them. Jack doesn't know what they said. He was so in where he was, trying to just take care of himself, that the guards were angry, and then 3 of them went over and with guns pointed in his back marched him down the road, which left the little boy of 7 or 8 standing in the field with these oxen. And Jack said, I always wondered what happened to him. Did he live? Did he die? What happened to the little boy? I want to know. But he didn't know their names, but it was supposedly his enemy that saved his life. His enemy saved his life. And then he went into, he was in prison because they didn't shoot him that day. And he was there, and one of the men was hurting so badly and had terrible wounds. And Jack said to the fighter pilot, the German fighter pilot who was overseeing the jail, he said, "Can I get some sulfa out of my parachute? Because this man needs it." And he took him, and they started talking in English, obviously. And he said, one of them said, wouldn't it be amazing if instead of us being enemies, we became friends? And Jack
Wow.
said, we could. If this war were not a thing, we could be friends. He said, how about if I give you my address? And the man said, no, if I were caught with that address, a US address on me, I would be killed. And so Jack could not, and he forgot his name. So many things happened to him. But that's, to me, it is amazing to me that in his life, and especially at these really critical times when it was painful, he was fearful, I bet he had no resilience, or maybe he didn't know about, but he just had to keep going, and he did. And, he said to me, and it still makes me kind of laugh and think, really? You really feel that? Anyway, he said, you couldn't give me $1 million to do that again, nor could you give me $1 million to take that away from me, because
Wow.
it made him who he was. He wanted to work with children. He never had children, he and his wife, and he wanted to work with children. And it was his kids that were in his schools that were his executor to his will, were the people that took him to the VA because it was too far for his wife to drive. And so it was those kids that he mentored as a teacher, as an educator, a coach, that really were with him to the very end of his life. I have to just tell one more story about Jack, which is so funny. When he died, I had gone out there and got his books and shipped them home, and actually agreed to take his standard poodle, which when Jack and Laura were both gone, we got this poodle that we loved dearly. Oh, he was the best. And Jack said to me, I was never going to be hungry again. So the executor called me and he goes, Val, you're never going to believe it. I found over 1,000 pounds of food in the basement. So Jack was really never going to be hungry again. And that was part of what they did in prison camp, was they didn't talk about girls and sex and all that. They talked about food, what they were going to eat, what recipes they were going to make. They were going to eat ice cream. They were going to, all those things. And so to me, it was gratitude, because if we use gratitude in our lives every single day, if we get up and go, the negative, but you could get up and make your bed and go, wow, look how pretty it looks. Or you can put on your makeup and go, I look so nice. Or step on the scale and go, wow, I'm 2 ounces thinner than I was yesterday. Or walk outside and look at the sky, or the sun coming up, or we have autumn right now in Wyoming. It's cold and we're supposed to have snow today. So I love to watch that. And I got to see a solar eclipse not long ago. So I can always find something even small, or your child gives you a hug and tells you, I love you. Yesterday, I was at the grocery store with my two of my grandchildren. And when we went in, there was all these Christmas decorations. And Beckham, he's 5, he'd say, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. And he would wave to everybody in the store and he would say, Merry Christmas. And then they started singing Christmas carols that they had learned at preschool. And so I was laughing so hard at them because it was just such a joyful time. And I was so proud of them because they were Merry Christmas and they were just talking to all these people. They were not fearful. And that was a big piece for me, was that joy of those. You can't tell I love them, right?
Yes, yeah,
Blake's 3, and we call her Blakey girl. And this is a little powerful woman that is really a feminist. She's quite I can do it myself kind of girl. But those are the things that I want you to look for, tiny nuggets that, some people just say, oh, be quiet. No, I wanted them to tell the whole story. Merry Christmas, because they're so cute. And I have tears in my eyes right now because it was a beautiful way for them to interact with another human being that made them laugh. They chuckled because it's not even Thanksgiving yet, and they're already saying Merry Christmas. Here's these 2 little kids in this cart with vegetables and all these things, and it was just so amazing.
I love that. So, Val, may I ask you a question? You were telling me about your, if I can call it heaviness, while your husband was so sick.
Yeah. My husband was dying of bone marrow cancer, and I had to give him IVs every day. I had to look at his stools, what his poop looked like to see, and I had to give him 3,000 calories a day. Now, chemotherapy does not make you want to eat. It makes you want to lay down and do nothing. He had to walk every day. We had to do all kinds of things. And I would make a new dish every day if I had to try and get something that he liked to eat. Nothing at all. And I was talking to one of the POWs and I was explaining what I felt like because at times when we came home, I was so fragile. If you had touched me, I would have shattered like glass. And I was seriously thinking about suicide, but I had two children, a 16-year-old and a 10-year-old. I couldn't do that. And I'd been a coach for all these girls who were soccer players. I couldn't do that. So I came up with 3 ideas. Okay, I can kill myself, I can plant flowers, or I can have an affair. Well, I have flowers everywhere. My husband survived, and it taught my family how to be strong and resilient. But I was telling one of the POWs about it when I was because he lived in Seattle. And he said, "My dear, you have just been in combat because of the fear, because I didn't know if he was going to live, because some days he'd be good and then be really bad." And so it was so interesting. Now, my combat was nothing like the prisoners of war, but the feelings that I felt, I believe, are like what many veterans feel. And I can see, because if Jerry gets sick now, I kind of have a little PTSD, because post-traumatic stress disorder, because I kind of go back, is he going to be okay? Is he all right? I want to mother him, and I'm trying not to ever do that anymore. But it's important to me now. I see the value of that experience. I understand what it brought to my children, to me, the resilience, the gifts that we can give other people about, here, try this, do this. I mean, I don't want anybody to follow me, but here are some suggestions. Like, my friend had cancer, they took it all out, and it was supposed to. And so when I see her, we haven't had dinner with her and her husband, I want to ask her to have them send that biopsy to a hospital, a larger hospital, with people who look at it, doctors who look at it from a perspective of seeing hundreds of thousands of people's DNA or whatever it is that they're looking at, the disease. And just because I would feel better knowing that she was really okay, and that the doctors here, who have a small population that they see all the time and sort of the same diseases, that they would help her. And yeah, I never want to have to do that again. And I hope no one ever has to do that. But it is the most amazing thing. My husband is 98.8% female bone marrow, and we never want it to become his bone marrow again, because it would be lethal. And he's so healthy. And that was 20 some years ago. And I make this terrible joke, and I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. I tell people, yeah, he's over 18, because when you have a bone marrow transplant, it's like they kill you and then they bring you back to life. And so I make the joke with people, yeah, he's old enough, I can have sex with him, because he's now over the age of 18. And so some people don't think I'm very funny, but I think I'm funny. So it makes me laugh. It's terrible.
So, what other stories did you learn lessons that you think the audience will also learn a lesson?
Well, forgiveness, number one. I've already said that. Our fears, really, what is it that puts it in a box? Now, I call it a prison camp of our own making, but what is it that you do? I don't like people. Well, sometimes I don't either, but being around them is how we're going to curb our year or 2 years of isolation and bring us back to civility. And, I believe that by us also doing forgiveness. Now, I have wars inside of me about people. Someone I feel, did something to me that I need to forgive myself, number one, for being angry or hurt by someone, because that was my response. I don't know what they meant by that, or maybe they were having a bad day or whatever, but I have to forgive myself. But also, forgiving others will allow you to be neutral. And when you can be neutral with someone you are angry with or so hurt by, you can start looking at that a little bit better. And that then is your adversity, your story, and you could change it by the forgiveness. And I can tell you proof positive, it works. It blows my mind how I knew I wanted to say things to my brother. I knew I was ready when I went to my mother's funeral. And yet I didn't. I didn't even think about it because we were able to embrace and take pictures together and laugh. And, you know, it just is. I think that's proof how much it works. And then the resilience piece, because some of us have certainly more complications in our life than others. And I know someone who says, I just need a break. Well, maybe you need to give yourself a break and allow yourself to just settle in, write, or go for a walk, or do something you don't normally do. That's a change that can make, and you can think about it on your walk, or you can write down and think about it. And, you know, sometimes when you write it down, it's more easily understood. Something about how you write something down allows you to see it in a new light. Now, if we see something really negative in a new light, and it's like, boom, the lights go on, and wow, look what I've learned. I'm really, I learned a lot from just writing it down or whatever, or from being grateful. You know, you find a little nugget, and then all of a sudden they start being big ones. And then all of a sudden you start having things happen to you that are just like, I can't believe that happened. How did that happen? And then you look at your life and you go, well, I guess I set myself up for it. I had that positive attitude, that resilience to keep going, that confidence that I could do something different, that ability to learn something that would give you a step up in business, or if you want to raise and you get the confidence to ask for it, or I mean, it's all a part of the big puzzle. And my mentors, my family became all these people that were World War II prisoners of war. And I just got very lucky, and they are very important to me. They have given me, I can't tell you how much.
It is so beautiful, Val. Can you tell us what are you wearing?
I am wearing a uniform. It is a World War II flight suit. And here's a pin. Oh, wrong side. Here's a pin. It's a POW pin, and this just says Army Air Corps. And the reason I wear clothing of theirs that they would have worn, I have a leather jacket. I have a Mae West, which is a flotation device, and it's called a Mae West because when they inflate it, it looks like you have big boobs. And Mae West was the star during the war that had large
I
breasts.
didn't know. I
Yeah,
didn't
and so
know.
they called him Mae West. And then when Pamela Anderson was in, oh, I don't know, some show with little tiny swimming suits on, they started calling them Pamela Anderson vests. You know, so it's the women who have the largest chests, and so I have all of those clothes, and I mean, you can't see behind me, but the behind this backdrop
Okay.
is books and books and books and books. And over here on my left are more books and books. And I have file cabinets of stories, and I have a floor with some things on it that you don't get to see, and you're very lucky you don't, because
I saw it. I saw it. And it's a lot.
it's all a process. And if we can just stay on a process, or this process doesn't sound very good, but look for a new path for yourself. You know, open that that door to the prison camp. You know, when they were in prison camp, they were all behind barbed wire. And if you're behind barbed wire, look for an opening to bypass that in your life.
Oh, I love it.
I've
I
said
love
it how many times today, and I truly believe it. And I truly know that all of you have the capabilities to do so much more, and probably that you want to do. You know, I can remember times when I said, when I was in Girl Scouts, well, I want to learn about this. So I tell them, yeah, I'm working on it, when I actually hadn't. I lied to them, truthfully. Truthfully, I lied. But I would pick out learning that I could do because I wanted to learn it. It kept me busy at home and I didn't have to deal with the other stuff. And then I got a badge, and I just love getting Girl Scout badges. So I have a whole, you know, all these badges from being a Girl Scout. And it was just because I wanted to learn. And I don't know what to tell you or anyone else what to learn, but there are so many opportunities. And if you want to learn something online, you can learn just about anything. You can take classes that are free. You can listen to the Sinead and the Diamond Beauties. I mean, there are women that can teach you just amazing, incredible things about your life that you look and you go, why didn't I do this earlier? Well, we're not going to go back. We're going to, I'm giving you feed forward.
Yes, feed
So
forward. I love it.
feed forward and keep going.
I love it. What is a big lesson that you want or I will get to the golden nugget, but I want to do the lesson first. And then I know you mentioned forgiveness is a big thing that you need to do, but is there something else? What is a big lesson that you've learned in your life that you can give to the
I
group?
think forgiveness is this one and gratitude is this one. You know, if they could, if the drug makers could make a pill that would give all of us gratitude, there would be no need for any pills that handle depression. And I just think, and that blew me away when I read that gratitude could make people, honestly, can you imagine just getting up in the morning and be thankful that you made your bed, or a little thing like it was warm in your house, or I love the outdoors. It's fall and there's still those yellow and orange leaves on the trees, and I look at my garden and I need to still pick some leaves and some beets because the tops have frozen, but they still look like they're good, so I need to get them out of the ground. And there's just the little things. My grandson last night, he and I made a Lego together, and we had fun doing that. And Blakey girl, I bought her a little crown, and definitely she deserves a little crown. And to see them playing, and and they hold hands when they walk together, and I love to see just those little things that make bigger things out of really big things. It just makes something big to you come to you. And when it does, it's just like my heart, my soul, my body, my brain, everything about it is positive. The depression, and I don't think I don't have my problems, because I do, and some of them I don't handle as well as I'd like to. But those two things, forgiveness and gratitude, I think will send you down a path, or help you find a path of your liking. Now, that's not going to get rid of some of the adversity, because life is full of adversity right now in the United States, in South Africa, in so many countries. There is adversity, and there's a lot of things that are happening, but we aren't forgiving, and we aren't talking to one another. We are isolating groups, and you're good and I'm good and you're bad. And I that's what the wars are all about. And if you can solve that war in your own heart, I believe it makes you more acceptable of the world around you. And if you're more acceptable of this big world that we live in, then more people come into your life, more thoughts, more learning, more everything. And it's all about solving that war, that adversity that you can't get over, that fear, that sadness, that you just need to find that little piece to start
Beautiful.
down. a path.
Beautiful. So, my beautiful Val, I'm going to play. I have written a song for the Diamond Beauties, for Soul of a Diamond. I still need somebody to sing it for me, but you know Dr. Michael Alexander. He have recorded the words for me. And then when we finish with that, I will ask you your golden nugget before we close down for today's show. Cannot believe almost an hour is gone.
Yeah.
So, here we go.
Moments of moving from here to there between the star and the moon's soft glare capture a glimpse of light so rare, radiant and shining, our hearts declare for the world to see in love's grand affair. Moments of our lives that are filled with laughter keep us going, hearts thrilled, capture the essence of who we are in the spirit of a child like a shooting star. Moments to share our true stories so bright, not only for the world to heal, take flight, but to remind us how amazing we are. Forever moving forward, a radiant star to create magic near and far. In the radiance of each heart's soft glow, we find the strength to carry on and grow. Shining bright, our love doth show in every moment, from dusk till dawn's soft flow. Radiant hearts, we shine so bright. In the diamond moments of love and light, together we rise, our spirits take flight in the beauty of each day and every night.
What do you think about that?
I love it because it's exactly what I'm talking about. You know,
So-
the bright, and it's simple, and it's not. It makes what seems so hard simple, and it's just that first little step. You know, in your own mind. Okay, what is that step? Okay, what do I do with it? Do I write? How do I forgive? You know, I gave you that you have to turn it over to a higher power. You have to become comfortable with your story and be able to tell it, you know, not all the gory details, but be able to tell it for yourself so that you can embrace it instead of let it hurt you or make you angry, and then forgive unconditionally. And that peace and the peace of gratitude will do everything for you. I mean, it will change everything for you. I believe that seriously in my heart. I know the prisoners found it too. Now, not all of them were able to live happily and healthy, but that if I can give that to you, if you can embrace just a little piece of that and just keep adding a little piece every day, it will become momentous to you at some level.
I love it. And I hear your beautiful grandchildren at the back. I really miss my grandchildren that are in New Zealand. So just hug them from me as well and just enjoy them, because it's difficult if you can only see them or not hug them. If there's one thing, I know you gave us a golden nugget, but if there's one thing that you can teach your little ones, what will that be?
To stay themselves, to enjoy their joy. I mean, yesterday when we were at the store and they're singing Merry Christmas, I mean, that was their joy. And they were having such a good time, you know. And then I'd say, where's the number 7? And they'd look on all the things. There's a 7. And so we were playing games, and it was kind of teaching them to count too, you know, and where's a 9? And they know a 9. And, you know, and so just those little things that I did with my grandchild. I mean, I came home and I was like, I'm pretty good stuff, you know, I'm really happy today. And, you know, they just made me laugh so much. And I was so tired. And truthfully, I hadn't spent a lot of time on giving this presentation. And all of a sudden my husband was over with his family, you know, his mother had died. And so he called, he said, you doing okay? And I said, yeah. And then all of a sudden I realized, no, I need to be ready for Sunit tomorrow. I need you to come home. So I called him back, and he came home, and this is what we got out of my time just thinking and, you know, wanting to share with you the value of what I have learned, because I took a step to learn about these men and traveled and interviewed them and went to their reunions and traveled more and pretended we were on their forced march, and one of the first forced marches, not the 400 to 600 mile, but a 66-mile one, and doing all those things. And I feel like I'm a better person for it. And that's what I want to be, is a better person, because
I love it.
I want to give it to the world.
I love it. My beautiful Val, our time is up. You are such an inspiration for me and for the Diamond Beauties. Thank you so much for giving us your time, and good luck and all my strength from South Africa of all the things that you need to do for the funeral and your husband. And you know, you are truly amazing. I love you dearly. I love you dearly. My beautiful Diamond Beauties, I hope you have enjoyed our beautiful Val's session, Soul of a Diamond. And then my beautiful viewers out there, thank you for joining us. I want to wish you all a beautiful day. Look after yourself, because ultimately, if you look after yourself, you can look after anybody. And then smile, smile often. And I love to say, keep on dancing, because dancing makes you young, dancing makes you beautiful. Bye bye, everyone.